Welcome back to Monitors Unboxed. I've been spending the last couple of days out here on the show floor of Computex 2025 to hunt down some more interesting monitors. So we're going to check out some stuff from ASUS and Acer. Let's go do that right now.
The Harbour Unboxed Computex coverage is brought to you by MSI, Thermal Grizzly, GSkill and Trix. Check out MSI's range of Z890 and B860 motherboards built for performance with robust VRAM designs that are cooled by massive heat sinks. There's more than enough power delivery to support the latest Core Ultra desktop processors from Intel. Also enjoy ultra-fast networking, Wi-Fi 7 and at least 5 gigabit wired LAN. There's also support for PCIe 5.0 along with MSI's screwless M.2 Shield Frozer for quick and easy installation of storage. Learn more about MSI's range of Z890 and B860 motherboards via the links in the video description. Also supporting our Computex trip this year is Thermal Grizzly and their Duranaut high-performance thermal paste offering extreme long-term stability combined with outstanding thermal conductivity. It's not electrically conductive and won't harden over time. So for more information, please check the links in the video description.
So I've spotted at the Acer booth a product I'm super interested in. This is something that was shown off at CES for the first time, but is here at Computex again. It is the Predator XB 323QX. Again, stumble on the names because I haven't seen them before. But this is a really unique product. This is a 5K gaming monitor, so 31.5 inches, I should say, 5120 by 2880 at 165 Hz. So this is the first time that we've really seen a higher than 4K resolution with a higher than 60 Hz refresh rate in this sort of panel format. So I think that will be, first of all, quite appealing just from those specs, but it goes beyond that. It's also got dual mode support at 2560 by 1440 at 330 Hz. So again, one of those new dual mode panels gives you that higher refresh rate, and with the 5K panel, it means the dual mode isn't 1080p, it's 1440p now, giving, we're seeing Counter-Strike here, it's going to give that type of gamer a higher resolution experience, which is great. Then there's more specs to this. G-Sync Pulsar as well from NVIDIA, giving us backlight strobing capabilities. The new G-Sync Pulsar you might have seen, we can throw up some slides on the screen about that. And on top of that, it also has a glossy finish. So we're hearing a lot about how glossy is preferred for a lot of gamers. This isn't an OLED panel, this is still an IPS LCD, but it uses a glossy finish instead of matte. So there are a few reflections in this sort of brighter show floor environment, but I think for a lot of people playing games at night, this would be a great option. Now, I've been told that this is still a prototype version that we're seeing here. Acer are working closely with NVIDIA and their G-Sync Pulsar technology to make this panel work. So they're aiming for mass production very late in 2025. So we're probably going to see this display push out until 2026 for general availability. But yeah, 5K monitor for gaming, that sounds awesome to me. Let's go check out some other options. So Acer have also got some options of QD OLEDs that you might have seen from other brands so far. We've got the Predator X27U F5. This is their 1440p 27-inch 500Hz QD OLED. I've been told this will be coming around the sort of Q3 timeframe. They're also quoting Phaser Display HR True Black 500 spec instead of 400, so that might imply slightly higher brightness capabilities. They're also releasing a 27-inch 4K QD OLED 240Hz. This is True Black 400 spec. Again, we're looking at around Q3 timeframe for that. We've already tested the models from MSI, Dell, ASUS as well that use this panel, so we're basically expecting Acer to provide a very similar variation of that. And then finally, as we move down here a bit more, we have got the Predator XB 273U F5. So we looked at the 5K panel before. This is another G-Sync Pulsar monitor, but 1440p 360 Hz instead. Again, we're told that G-Sync Pulsar monitors mass production is around the Q3 timeframe. So again, we haven't seen G-Sync Pulsar yet in the flesh in terms of our testing in our test suite. So we'll be putting that through the paces as soon as they're available. Acer will be joining. Definitely ASUS has a G-Sync Pulsar display as well, and I think we'll see it from other brands. But yeah, they're showing it off here at Computex. So one of the unique monitors that we've found at Computex 2025 is from ASUS. This is the ROG Strix OLED XG32 UCWG, and I believe there's a UCWMG model as well. These names are just awful. But the reason why we want to talk about this monitor is that it's a 32-inch 4K WOLED monitor with a glossy finish. So we know that previously ASUS has come out with the 27-inch 1440p glossy WOLED, the XG27 AQDMG, I think was that model. They make a lot of models, so I hope that was the right one. essentially they're bringing a very similar technology to 32-inch 4K now as well. However, it is a slight upgrade from what we saw previously. So with that 1440p model, just a glossy panel instead of matte panel. What ASUS are using today, at least with this monitor, is what they're calling true black glossy WOLED, which appears to be a little more in line with what we see from glossy WOLED TVs. If you've ever bought, say, an LG C series OLED, the coating appears to be a bit similar to that. So with those previous glossy WOLED monitors, the 1440p ones, there was a little bit of grain with them, a little bit of diffusion in the, the layers, the panel coating and that sort of thing. This is a much deeper black version of that, much less diffusion, sharper reflections. However, they're also claiming that even though the reflections are going to be that little bit more defined, the blacks will be deeper and the reflections, it won't reflect back quite as much light. So if you do see a reflection, it should be a bit better minimized on this sort of panel. We've seen it in a show floor environment, which it isn't the best conditions to experience something like this. You're going to have to see how it goes with your lighting setup. But essentially, there's two different models, as I said earlier. There is a 165Hz model, that is the one without the M in the name. There's a 240Hz model that does have the M in the name, and these will be coming shortly at what I think is quite an attractive price. The 240Hz model should be around the $950 US range, and the 165Hz model below that. So that will be very competitive with 4K QD-OLEDs that we've seen for quite some time now. Obviously, as a WOLED, they also have dual mode functionality, all the usual stuff we see from 4K WOLEDs. So yeah, a nice option, alternative to things like the PG32 UCDP, which is the matte version of this monitor that's in the ROG Swift line. So yeah, I think having a glossy option is going to be fantastic for all the people that keep saying on our videos for matte WOLEDs that they want to see glossy instead. So we're seeing glossy here with all the same sort of features. Neo proximity sensor, one of the additions from the 27-inch monitors, is coming to this 32-inch model as well. Obviously the OLED care stuff is in there. The OLED anti-flicker is in this monitor as well. Struggled to think of the name there for a brief moment. So yeah, this should be a fairly compelling monitor when it comes out in the next couple of months. So we're here with what ASUS calls the world's fastest esports monitor, the ROG Strix Ace XG248 QSG. Shorten those names, please, ASUS. They're claiming this is the world's fastest esports monitor because there's a 1080p 24-inch TN panel with a 610 Hz refresh rate. Now, back at CES, we actually saw a 750 Hz TN monitor, so I'm not 100% sure whether this actually will be the world's first or world's fastest esports display. We'll see about that, but one of the interesting things we've got here is obviously ELMB black frame insertion or ELMB backlight strobing. It's been enhanced with this particular model with what they're calling ELMB2. So instead of just having one backlight that strobes all of the time, the whole backlight strobes and pulses on and off to increase clarity, this has a multi-zone approach, which is quite similar to BenQ's Diac 2 technology that we've looked at on Monitors Unboxed before. So there's two strips of LEDs on each side, and with, I believe it's 10 zones up and down the screen. So as the panel refreshes, the backlight zones pulse in tune with that refresh. So what that means is that instead of having a single strip of clarity in the middle of the display that ELMB works best for, we should be getting better clarity from the top to the bottom of the screen. We saw that work really well with BenQ's Diac 2, and with ELMB2, it should hopefully give us the same benefits. So this product should be available for around $800 in August, which is a very expensive price to pay for a 1080p monitor, but it's obviously geared towards the esports crowd, where people are willing to pay extreme amounts of money for the best clarity and lowest input latency for their extreme gaming experiences. So we'll hopefully check this one out in the next couple of months. ASUS need to be stopped because check out this product name. The ASUS ROG Strix OLED XG34WCDMTG. So again, XG34WCDMTG.
Hang on.
That's too long, guys.
Hang on. Is that real?
That is real. XG34WCDMTG. I guess they must all mean something. It's too many, guys. It's too many. Anyway, we've been talking about in some other videos this trend of adding Google TV to some of the monitors we're seeing at Computex. So this is a smart TV. It doesn't look like it because it's currently playing Hogwarts Legacy. It is a 34-inch WQHD monitor, so 3440 by 1440, QD OLED, 240 Hz, all the specs we've seen previously in these sorts of monitors. So we're expecting a second generation Samsung QD OLED display, all that good stuff, right? But it's got a remote. you press the home button on the remote, and we've got all the smart TV functionality that you would want, all your apps and stuff. And what this really helps with, because it's an OLED and it supports both HDR and Dolby Vision, if you want to use applications that support HDR for streaming TV shows and that sort of things, you're going to get a much better experience using that on a smart TV with Google TV than you would through Windows. We know Windows Dolby Vision support's really bad. Google TV support for Dolby Vision is really good. So if you want to play like an Apple TV Plus show, that should work really well on the smart TV side of things, not so much on the Windows PC. So I think when we're seeing monitors that do support Dolby Vision and these HDR10 standards, it makes a lot more sense to have something like this smart TV functionality. Again, some gamers really don't like smart TVs because the interface adds a lot of bloat to the experience, and they just like having their monitor. You plug it in, it just works for gaming. But this is just adding options for people. If you don't want the smart TV functionality, there's another option for you. You can just get a monitor without that, essentially. So I quite like that as an addition. I think it adds to the package, and hopefully we'll see this product soon into the market. So I've been on the hunt for more 500Hz QD OLEDs, and here we're seeing ASUS's version, the ROG Strix OLED XG27AQ DPG. So that's interesting. 500Hz QD OLED, same panel as all the other variants that we've seen. I believe this one will be available in July of 2025, priced at $900 US. So it seems like a lot of the OEMs that we're seeing with the 500Hz QD OLED are hitting basically the same time frame at basically the same price. So this is going to have to come down to features and performance as to how good the product's going to be. But this has got all the latest ASUS OLED features that I really like integrated. They've got the OLED Neo proximity sensor built in. They've got OLED anti-flicker. I think those things allow ASUS to stand out of the pack outside of, it gives them a couple of extra features that a Gigabyte model or an MSI model might not have. Again, it's rated for display HDR True Black 500. So that should give us, again, slightly higher brightness specs than we've seen previously. And we'll be testing a bunch of these 500Hz monitors throughout the rest of 2025. So stay tuned for our looks at the MSI, Gigabyte, ASUS. We'll try to test them all. And you've seen this one right here. So here we have a refresh monitor. This one is pretty straightforward. This is the ROG Swift OLED PG32 UCDM R. We've already tested the PG32 UCDM on the channel, but basically this is the refresh version. So it's the exact same 32-inch 4K 240Hz QD OLED panel that we've seen previously, but with some additional features that are going to give us some additional functionality for the 2025 version. So DisplayPort, that's been upgraded from DisplayPort 1.4 to DisplayPort 2.1 in this model. We're also getting the new Neo proximity sensor that was introduced with the 27-inch 4K model. And I believe they're also going with a couple of other OLED care features, the new versions of that in this particular monitor. It'll be priced at around the same level, so $1,300 US MSRP for both the old model and the new model. So exact same price there. We're expecting the exact same performance, just with those additional features.
Finally, a big thank you to GSkill and Trix for helping to make our Computex trip possible this year. GSkill offers an amazing range of DDR5 memory with AMD Expo support, allowing you to get the most out of your Ryzen processor, and we've been using their Trident Z5 Neo memory in our test systems for years now, as we rely on it to get the best results. We've also started using Trix coolers, and I've got to say the Panorama SE 360 Black is one of the best looking AIOs I've ever seen. The quality of the rotatable display is incredible, and as complex as the design appears, it's remarkably quick and easy to install. So for more information, please check the links in the video description.
Alright, so that does it for our monitors coverage at Computex 2025. I reckon this has been a really great show for displays. There's been a ton of new stuff, a ton of low-cost stuff across both OLED and LCDs from most of the main brands that we've seen here at Computex 2025. So as always, we'll be trying to review as many of the monitors that we've tested as possible. I think it's going to be pretty difficult because I've seen about 10 to 20 interesting products, and I only test so many on the channel every year, but we'll give it our best shot to test all these interesting products. So stay tuned for that right here on Monitors Unboxed. If you're interested in supporting the channel, of course, we have our Patreon page, links to that in the description below. But apart from that, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.